Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode on a mother's journey to holistic health and healing. I'm your host, Marissa Prieto. This is episode 29. This is going to be a very powerful, very insightful, and important one, especially for all of us women. Today, I am joined by my dear friend Maria, and she has truly and bravely walked a journey that so many of us women can fear, right? A breast cancer diagnosis. In her case, it was an early stage of breast cancer. And through her experience, right, she has learned so much about healing, advocacy, and the power of really tuning into our bodies. So we're going to get into pretty much, her story, how it started, what she noticed. We're going to get into her challenges, obviously, the during the storm, right? And then kind of like after the storm, once it's settled, and how she's healing and what she's doing now on the other side. So let's get into it. Thank you so much, my friend. Can you come on and share with us, tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, yes. Hi, first of all, thanks for having me on your podcast. I'm so honored and so proud,
Thank you.
to be a guest on your podcast. So again, my name is Maria. I'm born and raised El Paso, Texas. I'm happily married to my husband. I have two wonderful little boys that are 6 and 4 years old, almost 5. I have a loving dog. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for quite a long time now. It's been going on 16 years.
Wow.
Back since 2009. Yes, I've been a nurse for a long time, for a while now. And I have experience in different areas, from medical, surgical, wound care, hospice, home health, family practice. Right now I'm working from home. I had to make a lot of changes throughout my career, especially once I had a family. Definitely a lot of changes throughout to accommodate, to be able to just accommodate what our family needs and still be able to provide as well. But
Definitely. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of us can relate to listening to this, right? That's motherhood for us, is like once you become a mom, there's so many different kinds of changes we have to make and adaptations. Our life changes in so many ways that we kind of just got to we don't have instructions. You got to just kind of, go with the flow and just figure out, okay, let's do this. Let's try this. And we're doing so many different things, being pulled in so many different directions that it gets crazy sometimes, right?
Definitely, yes. It just changes everything. So just trying to find something that's, that's flexible, just to be available for my kids and for my home. Yeah, so thankfully, I work from home now. I've been doing that for almost 2 years, and it's, it's good.
Yeah. That's an important, I think, piece too, right? To navigating health challenges or any kind of challenges that we're really going through is figuring out, we don't know what to do, but yet we're still just taking the risk, and we're just trying different things to adjust and work through it.
Yes, definitely.
In our careers and in our personal life. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for introducing yourself, and thank you so much for being here. We've had this conversation just talking about how sharing your story, not only can be healing for yourself, but just really putting that out there for other women, for their moms to hear, and how important and essential it is for us to hear this, because that's something in the back of our minds, but it's a fear, but yet it's not something we're thinking about all the time, and just by you sharing your story, that allows other women to become more aware as well, and seeing the possibilities and seeing the hope and the faith and how we can get through it, right, and overcome it. So thank you for being here and for sharing your story with me. Yeah. And for all of us, actually. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so let's get into it. And again, this is a safe space, and, whatever you feel, you're welcome to express how you feel. Anything comes out or anything, just feel comfortable and sharing whatever you'd like to share today. But do you think maybe you can take us back to that moment where you first felt maybe something was wrong or kind of off? Maybe you can kind of walk us down, maybe when you noticed something was different in your body.
Yeah. So, I've always been very tuned to my body, and I've always thought like, okay, like I'm healthy, I work out, I trade okay, the best to what I can. But I mean, after having kids and the high stress, I just feel like, I wasn't really taking care of myself during that time. But I do recall, maybe it was back in like 2021. I had already had my second son. I do recall, I had, I was, I was breastfeeding at that time still, but I remember I was sitting down, just
Mm-hmm.
drinking a tea at night, or just, I don't know, I was just sitting down,
Mm-hmm.
relaxing. And I just felt this burning sensation coming down like my left breast. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if anyone has ever felt like that feeling when the breast milk comes in, like
Oh,
the
yes,
letdown,
the letdown.
the letdown. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's kind of
but
painful. Yeah.
it's painful, but it was like 100 times worse, like just like a
Oh,
burning, like if it was gonna come out of my breast. It was just so
wow.
painful. And I just remember holding my breast and I was like, what is that? Like that is
Mm.
so odd. Like I've never experienced that, like I've had pain, during my menstrual cycles. I know I have fibrocystic breast. And that's just pretty much like just lumpy, rope-like type of,
Tissue. Is
tissue.
it?
Yes,
Okay.
tissue. And it pretty much just fluctuates, like especially during like our menstrual cycles, due to the hormones
Mm.
changing. So I've always experienced that, like some sort of tenderness to my breast, but
Mm-hmm.
that pain was just different, it
Mm.
was just different. And I was like, I didn't like that, so I remember telling myself like, okay, I need to go to the doctor, maybe I can get an ultrasound done, or let's see what they say. So, yeah, I went to go see my primary care and I told her what happened. And my mom's always had issues with her mammogram results. She doesn't have a history of cancer, but she's always had like abnormal mammograms, where they had to see. So, I guess, I think it's so important like knowing your family medical history, that
Mm-hmm.
way you can share that too with your provider. So I did share that with my provider that time, and I told her about, what I was experiencing. And I told her, I do have a history of fibrocystic breast. And she was like, I think it was 37 at that time. And she was like, okay, well, you know what? Let me do an ultrasound. And she's like, let's just do a mammo. Just to, you're almost 40. You're not that far.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just do a mammogram since, your mom's had abnormal mammograms, you've experienced that, you have the fibrocystic breast, let's just do a mammogram just, to be safe. So I was like, okay, we'll go ahead and do the mammo, that's fine. But that was like in 2021. And of course, like time passed because life with the
Mm-hmm.
kids. I had two under two, just busy, just trying to get working and just taking care of kids. So I didn't go get the mammogram. I didn't go get the ultrasound during that time. You know, I just forgot about it, to be honest, because that pain, it
Oh.
was only that one time
Mm-hmm.
and then it just never happened again. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I just forgot about it and I was
Mm.
just, really just busy, caught up with the
Mm-hmm.
kids and everyday life. But I remember like I don't know, out of nowhere, I just started experiencing just very off. I just felt off. Like, I dealt a lot with, I think, postpartum anxiety too and depression, but no, I just felt like something was just off, And I felt like something was in my chest, like my left side of my chest. I felt like something was stuck. And this was already like 2023 for
Mm-hmm.
20, yeah, like 20, like late 2022, like December 20 year going into 2023. I felt like that weird feeling like something is stuck in my chest and it was on my left side.
Mm.
And I would try and cough. I would be like, what is that? It's like it's not like what's going on? Like what is in my chest? And I remember like palpating. I was like, I don't feel anything, and it would keep me up at night. I'll be tossing and turning because I couldn't sleep. I couldn't like take a deep breath in, and I was like, why am I experiencing that? Okay, and then all of a sudden it just like clicked, maybe I was like, I need to do that mammogram, like. it just, I don't know, it was just weird. I don't know if it was like my body telling me something. I don't know. And it just clicked. I was like, you know what? I need to go do that mammogram. So of course I had to go back again to see a new provider because years had, like 2 years had almost gone by.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her everything, why it was ordered in the first place. And at this time, while I was closer, that was like 2023, January. So I don't know how old. I can't keep track of how old Well, anyways, it was 2023. So I went, she gave me the new orders. I finally went to go get the ultrasound. I finally went to go get that mammogram done, and I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. So yeah, so I mean those mammogram ultrasound, I mean they are uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable and I was nervous, just praying like, okay, I hope everything's okay. We'll see what happens, one step at a time. So I did the mammogram and then I remember getting a call. They wanted to do repeated imaging. They wanted to do additional imaging, I guess like different angles. So I'm like, okay.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, I don't want to jump ahead, but they just want to do more imaging. We'll see what happens. So I went again. I got the repeated imaging, and then they called me like right away, and they're like, well, they're recommending a biopsy. So what they found was they're called microcalcifications. And it's just like a buildup of calcium salt patterns. I mean, they can be benign too.
Mm-hmm.
But in my case, since they were like clustered, like in like kind of like little,
Together.
and that's
It was
together, yes, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what's like a red flag, like for the radiologist to be like, okay, no. But I mean, they'll recommend a biopsy just even if they do, maybe just to make sure, right? Just to be
Mm-hmm.
safe. So I was like, okay, they're recommending biopsy. Again, I kept telling myself like, okay, we don't know yet. Let's just, where I'm just going with the process just
Yeah.
to, make sure if it is something, we're catching it early. If it's benign, great. Let's just, so.
Yeah. At that point, I mean, you've gotten to that point already so far, right? Like it was like the years had passed, starting off with just feeling that burning sensation, and as a nurse, right? I mean, as a nurse, you're like, okay, I need to go get this checked out. This doesn't feel normal to me. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
Let me go see the doctor. And then coming back, right? Having those referrals to get the testing done, but like getting so caught up into our everyday life as a mother and a working mom on top of that with two little ones, it's easy to and like you said, that maybe the symptoms kind of subsided a bit and, it was just like you said, kind of forgotten, like it wasn't in your mind and in your body. You didn't feel those sensations, right? So with time and years went by, right? Years went by that it was just like, okay, like, which you said, you just forgot and it wasn't a thing anymore, right? Until you started to feel those heavy sensations in your chest. And I do remember you telling me like several times when we'd have conversations, like I just, I feel like I can't breathe sometimes, and like you mentioned, you're like, I don't know if it's anxiety or anything like that. But like you noticing where it was coming from a certain side of your chest, right, of your breast, and just feeling that heaviness and like you couldn't breathe, and like that moment when you said you were laying in bed and like it clicked to you, like, oh my God, what if this is tied to that, right? Which is a huge awareness, like a huge wake up call, red flag, right? Like, oh my gosh, this is something I totally forgot about. I need to go get this checked. So it kind of like, it was like in stages, huh? Like it kind of happened in stages, little at a time, where it was brought to your attention again. Like for the second time, right? It was brought to your attention.
Yes, it was. It was so crazy. I mean, maybe I did have little signs, but I mean, I was so caught
busy.
up and like so busy and, with the kids and just everything. So maybe I just wasn't really paying attention,
Yeah.
Maybe there was, but this one, when I started feeling that, I was like, what's going on? Like, why do I feel that? Like, I don't have it. So yeah, that was like a big, like, yeah, like a light lit up, I was like,
big light bulb
hey,
went off.
like, yeah, I was like, I have to get that mammogram done from that time. So
Yeah. And so what were you feeling like? That's when you got, they're kind of like, okay, you won't go at the mammogram. Let's have another one done. Now let's have a biopsy. Like, what were some of the thoughts that were going through your mind, or like, how were you feeling during that time that you feel like you can remember? What was it like for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just feeling like anxious, anxious and a little scared. Um, I could still get emotional about this,
It's okay. Take your time. Take your time.
but I didn't want to like start thinking the worst. I was just, I remember just thinking like, is this really happening?
Mm.
You know, like again, like how you said, I've been a nurse for so long and I've seen this, I've seen this. I've seen people at their lowest, most sick, but to actually now be the patient,
Mm-hmm.
it was just, it was hard at first, like just, but I just kept saying, okay, we're just doing the testing right now.
Yeah.
Let's not jump to conclusions. Let's just, I would just pray. It was lots of prayer. Oh my gosh. Prayer, just faith, just staying optimistic, just staying positive. Like, okay, and staying strong
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, just having the testing done, and it's like, it's scary. You're
Mm-hmm.
scared and you're just hoping that it's not the worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I ended up having the biopsy done. That was scary. Yeah, that was pretty intense. But thankfully, the radiology team where I went,
Mm-hmm.
they were very sweet, and the nurse, she was holding my hand while they were doing the biopsy. I remember that day I went to the breast clinic, and then my husband went with me, and then they pulled me back, to the room, and I remember the doctor coming up to me, very like, is there anyone in your family that has, breast cancer? So that was just kind of giving me like, oh, do they think this, do they think this might be cancer? Just kind of getting like those thoughts, like
Yeah, she asked me
questions.
these questions.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
yes. And she was like, and she told me, she's guys, just the reason I'm asking you is because the location where these calcifications are, like, it's pretty like deep in my breast. She's like, I just want to make sure I can get to them. So I ended up I did that biopsy, and yeah, that was like, I remember just sitting there, and they did the biopsy and the nurse was holding my hand, because I remember like tears just coming down my, I was crying because
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I can't believe I'm going through this, I can't believe I'm having this done. But I just tried to stay strong, and I was like, okay. So yeah, that was that, had the biopsy. They told me we'll call you with the results. We'll send them to your doctor. So I was like, okay. We just went home, and I just remember thinking like, oh, well, we'll see what happens. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna stay strong and just keep praying, and we'll see what they say, but
It was like one day at a time, right? And it sounds like what helped you really was, I mean, to get through that painful, difficult time was, like you said, your prayer, right? Staying connected to your faith and prayer, and trying to keep that mindset of more optimistic, and that, we'll just take it one day at a time, everything's gonna be okay, which we all go through difficult situations in our life, and you did the best that you could to support yourself with the words that were going to support you, right? You were supporting yourself
yeah.
with the words that could support you during that time. And like, we're all human, we're going to have those negative thoughts too at the same time, right? And so it's like, how can I better support myself during this difficult time? It's like, well, I'm just going to remember I'm going to be praying. Everything's going to be okay. Like, I'm going to get myself through it, versus the opposite that could be, oh no, this, that, and just going down this spiral and dark rabbit hole. We could easily go there too, right?
Hmm.
But I'm glad that you had, your faith to help support you. And I'm sure, your family as well, and anyone else that helps support you through this to get you through that difficult time, because it is hard, it is hard
Mm-hmm.
navigating. We go through so much as women and as mothers that we have to deal with. Yeah, there's so many emotions that go through it, and it's just a lot physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, on a whole entire level.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think something that really helped me did let my family know, that I was going through that. Like I was getting that testing done.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting the biopsy done, because sometimes we just wait until we have the result. But I just felt like I just needed, some support. I needed more prayer. I
Yeah.
needed, so I told my closest friends, my sisters, my family, I told them I was going through that process,
Mm-hmm.
just to please keep me in your prayers, just to help, to give me that support. Because sometimes I feel we just wait till we know, but I
Mm-hmm.
think we need that support from
During.
during, because
Mm-hmm.
it's
Beginning and during.
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. That's something too that we either are afraid to reach out for help or support, or just to be vulnerable, or don't want to put maybe too much stress on somebody else. Like there's so many thoughts we could have of why we don't want to speak out and ask for help and support. But I'm glad
Hmm.
that you did, because yeah, it definitely helps to have that support from the people that care about you and that really do love you. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Agree.
So what happened when you got back the results? Maybe bring us to
Yes.
that time when they
Oh
told
my
you.
gosh. Yes. So I remember like we went out of town after I had that biopsy to, we had tried to had a good time. During that time too, it was kind of hard to enjoy like anything 'cause that was in my head, like what, like, oh, hopefully everything's okay, so it was just kind of hard to enjoy the moment, be present, just because I was just always thinking about it. We're coming back, and it was a Monday. I remember it was a Monday, but I remember I saw the phone number, like they called from the clinic, from the breast clinic. I saw the breast clinic phone number, and I was like my heart just dropped because I already knew. Like I already knew something, I was like, and so I answered, and it was the doctor that did the biopsy. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is not good,
Mm.
because the doctor does not call you. So I remember her telling me, like, okay, we got your results. And I was like, okay. Like I just remember like I was even like shaking, it was just,
Mm.
and she was like, okay. And she was like, so you do have early stage of breast cancer. I was like, what? I was like, okay. Uh, she's like, it is treatable. It's very early. And I remember she said something, and I was like, ah, like I don't know. Sometimes I think some words is just. She's like, if all cancers, this is a cancer that's treatable. Like you'll be okay. But I mean, at the end of the day, like no one wants to hear that word. That
Mm.
one word, cancer. Even if it's early or late, it's
Mhm.
still like painful to hear that. It's still shocking and scary. And so I remember Pia just telling me, she's like, okay, she's like, so we recommend, you see an oncologist, a surgeon, a breast surgeon, to help with your care. And I was like, okay. Honestly, like I still remember, like I was just sitting in my car, like I just felt numb, like I felt so numb, and I don't know, it was just really hard. To,
Yeah, you
I was
kept
just
saying
in
like, if this
shock.
real? Yeah, you were in
Yeah,
shock, and it's like, is this really happening? Like, what's going on here?
yeah, I was just like, is this real? Like, are you like for sure? Like that one's like, is that the correct
Mhm.
biopsy? You just start thinking all this stuff, and
Mhm.
and she was just like, I'm sorry, I mean, I can only imagine how they feel, telling a patient like the news, but she was just like, I'm sorry. She's like, but just know it is treatable, and just follow up with your doctors, or so.
Mhm.
I just remember sitting in my car, and I was just crying
Mhm.
and just numb, and but then I just started taking some deep breaths, and I'm like, okay, what's next? This is my diagnosis. But what's the next?
The next step.
So yeah, that was hard. That was
I can't
hard.
imagine that moment of how you must have
That
been feeling in that moment.
it's just a lot of things cross your mind.
Absolutely.
Your health, your family, your
Hmm.
just a lot of things. But yeah, it was
Life.
just life. Yeah, just life. You're just like, oh my God, like things can just change in an
Hmm.
instant.
Hmm.
But yeah, I remember feeling just shock, fear, you know,
Hmm.
as time passed a little bit, after the hearing the diagnosis, I started feeling anger,
Hmm.
mad,
Hmm.
just I remember saying like, why me?
Hmm.
Like why me? Like I'm not a bad person. Like I'm always trying to help others, like why me?
Hmm.
I started doing research, which oncologist or which breast surgeon I wanted to see.
Hmm.
I reached out to an old friend. I remember she also had gone through a breast cancer diagnosis. So I reached out to her, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
and she was very supportive too. And she just provided, her like whoever like recommendations or what she did or who she saw or
Well, you took action in seeing, okay, what do I need to do next, right? Who are the
mhm
doctors? And having that background in nursing,
mhm
what in a way is like a blessing because are kind of just being your own nurse at the same time and thinking about, okay, what do I need? Like, who am I going to reach out to? Because I can only imagine, as other people who don't have any background in the medical field or just lost, or sometimes they have to do all this research on their own, like I
mhm
see my parents going through that with my dad and his cancers, and my mother-in-law recently, and like, we're here trying to support
mhm
them, and like so many people who have a diagnosis with cancer, it's like, this is what you have, go and see the doctors. And a lot of times some people are left to do that on their own, to make all the appointments, to
mhm
do all the, and that's a lot of stress in itself. And it's pretty sad the way the way the system is set up in some areas, right? Is like they've already got a lot of the stress on their plate with getting this news, and
mhm
to deal with appointments and looking for doctors and this and that, it's like overwhelming. Like, how does a person even manage to do all those things, when you're trying to
mhm
process the whole diagnosis, which I guess you really can't. For some people, they just don't have time to process because they're on survival mode, trying to like figure out, well, what do I got to do next to get this treated, right?
yeah
And
yeah
it's a lot to go through, I'm sure, is mentally and emotionally.
yeah, it was a lot, just setting up, just scheduling all the appointments, because after my diagnosis, they're like, oh, okay, well, I went to my first oncology appointment, and you walk in, and I was just like, oh, it's just
Mm.
like, oh my God, I can't believe like I'm a patient, I'm here. And she started ordering labs, so now I got to do lab work, and now we got to do more testing, or check your genetic test, make sure you don't carry the breast cancer gene. So that's very important too, if you to find out if anyone carried, if you carry the breast cancer gene. It's called like the BRCA gene.
Oh.
BRCA. And so so I didn't carry that gene. So it's kind of hard just to pinpoint, like what caused this. And that was a lot
Hmm.
of my thoughts, just like
Questions.
doing questions, my questions, my thought, the research, everything. I'm like,
Hmm.
well, what could have caused it? Like what?
Right.
But there's just so much, like so many factors that could have contributed to it, but it's just hard to pinpoint, like what.
Exactly. Yeah. The real reason is it could be a multiple of things. So,
Mm-hmm.
what was it of the diagnosis they gave you? What was the name of the
Yes.
cancer?
Yeah, so the early cancer that I had, it's called DCIS, which stands for Ductal Carcinoma In Situ. So pretty much they're abnormal cancer cells that were in my milk duct. So they were
Mm.
confined, they're in my milk duct. They weren't, but according to my, pathology report, like it wasn't invasive. That's why I was diagnosed as DCIS. So ductal carcinoma in situ is that it's there in my milk duct. It hasn't become invasive. It's just there in the milk duct. Now there's different types of stages, like grades of it. There's like grade, like the type of cell, there's like type 1, type 2, or low, medium, high. So there's just different types. So like everybody's different, but in my case, so I went to go see my oncologist, and then I saw my breast surgeon. He recommended a lumpectomy. So, and that's to remove where I had the biopsy, where they found those calcifications. That's where, so I ended up having a biopsy, and he removed that area. But to be considered like clear, like that they were able to remove all of it, like your margins have to be like an inch or more, like clear from, clear. So when I went back for my results from my first lumpectomy, like my margins were still showing positive. So I had more. So I had more of the DCIS, so more milk ducts were involved in.
So does that mean it like spread, or what?
No,
they were there, but they just weren't found. They weren't shot. Okay.
It was just so early that like it was just kind of hard to detect on everything on the mammogram.
Exactly. Right.
Yes. So they only found those microcalcifications that was detected on the mammogram, but everything else was still like early on, that it's kind of hard to detect everything on the mammogram or the ultrasound. So when I went for the lumpectomy, like the first one, so he removed it, and then it still came back positive. So he recommended another lumpectomy. So when I went in for my second lumpectomy in January, I was just praying like please let this be the last time, I hope they get it all. It's just a long journey, it's a long process going through it all, mentally, emotionally, just physically.
Yeah.
So I remember I had surgery again. It was a January. I went back for my results, and it was still positive margins. So the extent of the DCIS, it was pretty extensive. I was really shocked. I was shocked. I was frustrated. I was mad.
Yeah, I would too, right? I mean, you go on the first time, and you go on having to go a second time, and I'm thinking, like, if I was you, I would have been like, why am I here again? Like, shouldn't this all been taken care of the first time? And yeah, I mean, people are human, and things, they might not see things, but still, you're like in that situation. Like, why should I have to be still here doing this? Like, are you ready to put it behind you?
Yeah, I just felt angry and frustrated, and oh, and the poor surgeon, he's a good surgeon. They're good. They are, good doctors, but unfortunately my situation is just, I just had more than what was, expected or confirmed. So at that point, he recommended a mastectomy of my left breast.
Can you tell us what a mastectomy is for those that might not know?
Yeah, so mastectomy is, there's different, mastectomy is the removal of the breast tissue. So it's just removal of the breast, Yeah, I remember him telling me that, and I was thinking, well, I told him, I was like, why? Like, why? That's so invasive. That's like a big surgery. Like, how do we go from an early breast cancer diagnosis to a mastectomy, You know what I mean? I would it would make more sense to me if it was like a stage 4, or, it's already spread, that I would understand. That would make more sense to me. Understand it more,
right? Yeah, because at the beginning you're thinking, they're telling you from the get-go this isn't quote unquote early stages, and so you're thinking, okay, they're saying it's non-invasive, which means maybe the treatment is going to be like tolerable and not as intense.
Mhm.
But here you are
Mhm.
hearing these words of like, we recommend you get a mastectomy. And you're like, well, I thought, so I can just imagine what that must have felt like.
Yes. So usually like the treatment for this DCIS, this carcinoma in situ is women have a lumpectomy, and then after the lumpectomy they may have some radiation, and
Mm-hmm.
then depending on the type of tumor that it is, because there's different like hormones that can that help it grow. It can be estrogen
Oh,
positive, progesterone positive. It can be both. It can be there's HER2. It's just different. There's different types of tumors.
mm-hmm.
And there's different types of breast cancer.
Wow.
But in my case, for this early DCIS, the usual treatment is a lumpectomy. You may have some, a little bit of radiation, and then depending if it's like hormone receptor positive, they might recommend some set of medications to help suppress, block a certain hormone. That way it won't, keep feeding into that tumor.
Right.
But in my case, I kept showing more. They kept finding more and more, like more and more milk ducts had this already the early the cells.
Mm-hmm.
So I just remember when he told me that, I was like, it's pretty extreme, like how
Wow.
I'm just gonna remove my breast. And there's so much information on the internet. I even read somewhere that this certain diagnosis is sometimes overly treated. That some women
Mm-hmm.
can have this for a long time and nothing happens, but then there's cases where some women have this and eventually it becomes invasive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard. And at that time I told my husband, I was, like I need a second opinion. I want to make sure like this is
The
the
decision I'm going
right,
to make.
yes,
Yeah.
the right option for me, the right, yeah, decision. So I went back to my oncologist. I told her, she's like, no, yeah, definitely. Let's get a second opinion. So I ended up going to the Mayo Clinic in Arizona. They were great. They got all my records. They got all my pathology reports. They, like, how you were saying that we stress about looking for doctors. They were so helpful. I just worried about showing up. So it
Wow.
was
Yeah.
really they were really helpful. It was a good experience, even though it was
Mm-hmm. Under the circumstances. Yeah.
very under circus, but it was a good experience. And I spoke to the breast surgeon there, and she reviewed everything, and she told me, she was like, based off of the grade of your type of early cancer and the pattern of the tumor, it could become invasive. We don't know when. It could be a
Mm-hmm.
few months, it can be 2 years. They told me, they're like, since it's early, if you're at a different grade, like a low grade, I would tell you, let's just monitor you. She's like, but in your case, I agree with the mastectomy. She validated, I know it's very extreme, I know it's a big surgery, but if you leave it, it could eventually
Mm-hmm.
become invasive. I just felt so sad. I think I was like finally at that time, like accepting, like, okay, this is what's been happening. But after going for that second opinion and talking to the doctor, she explained everything very well. And she told me, since it is early, you are a candidate for like immediate reconstruction. It can help with the mental,
Mm-hmm.
the physical, as
Mm-hmm.
far as like yourself, your
Your
image,
image.
yourself, right? Uh-huh. She's like, because you're young, 39, to have a full mastectomy. She's like, there are options for reconstruction. And she was like, in your case, since it's early, we can do, a skin sparing. That means still use my own skin. She gave me options.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, we can do breast implant. We can do your own tissue. At that moment, I was like, okay. I was glad I went for a second opinion because I learned a lot at that appointment. And, I just started doing more and more research as far as like where or with who and which option I wanted to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember coming back from that appointment driving back to El Paso, and my husband was like, "Oh, so what are you gonna decide?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
It's another decision you had to make.
Yeah, I just, I could decide like, okay, well, let's just weigh it out. We'll see what happens in a year or two. Just not do anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But then I just start thinking about like my kids,
Mm-hmm.
like long term,
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I really want to take that risk? Like knowing this is what I have. So I'm like, no, like I need to get it out. I need to proceed with having that surgery,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't decided yet if I was gonna do like my own tissue or implants or what.
You just
Because
decided, yeah, this is gonna happen.
yeah, yeah, I had just decided like, okay, I need to do this.
Another
So
decision you had to make, right? It's like you're
I know,
jumping from all these really
I
tough
know.
decisions, like which doctor, and then this which procedure, and then now with it's like boom, boom, boom. Like you fall down and then you get back up and you get hit again and you're knocked down and it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm just can imagine. Like I'm so sorry you went through that and it's
Yeah,
painful. The whole thing. It's a lot.
yeah, it's exactly how it felt. But I just kept telling myself too, like we caught it early. I didn't need chemo.
Mm-hmm.
I can't only imagine like women going through that,
Mm-hmm.
that need chemo and
Radiation.
radiation,
Yeah.
and it's more advanced. So I just kept telling myself like you're gonna be okay. But it's just still hard, just having to go through that.
Yeah, of course. How do you feel like you took care of yourself, like through that process, like emotionally, mentally? I mean, you were telling yourself like it's gonna be okay, which I mean helps with your mental health, I'm sure
Hmm.
as well. But was there anything else that you did that helped you to take care of yourself during that whole period?
I think during the early part of it, where the testing, the surgeries,
Mm-hmm.
I was really, really depressed. So it was kind of hard to even like work out or
Of course.
even like get up and like shower.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think the only thing that, I was consistent was just praying
Mm-hmm.
and just listening to like worship music and just spending time with my family, being with my kids, and honestly, just letting it all out,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
releasing it, just crying. I felt like that was really the only thing I could, I don't know, do during that
Mm-hmm.
time.
And that still sounded like it was enough, right? I mean, we got to do what we need to do for ourselves in that moment that's realistic and manageable, right? And what our soul needs and what our body needs, and not of like getting into the whole pressure of I have to eat this way and I have to my movement and I because I know like as a dietitian when people come in and for oncology care and their nutrition there's a lot of drastic changes that people want to make and are willing to make. Some can, some can't, and for whatever the circumstances may be, and you don't need any of that pressure either, right? It's like, how do I find that balance? What can I do to take care of myself right now? Right now, what matters to me, spending time with my loved ones, trying to be as present as can be, prayer, connecting with my faith, my spiritual practice, right? And doing things that uplifted your spirit and your soul, right?
Mhm.
Because you knew you were really down and you knew you were down, you're feeling depressed, and you turned to the things that uplifted you, which is what you needed, right? To make sense. So you
Yes.
did care for yourself a lot during
Yeah.
that time
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
your own
You're
way,
right. In my
in
own
your own
way.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. You're completely right. I did do that. I just focused on, yeah, like just uplifting and just being with those I loved.
Hmm.
So, I did more research. Like I remember at that appointment in Arizona, the doctor showed me the options. So the option with my own tissue, that yeah, that's a pretty big surgery. But after doing more and more research, and I was like, like I think the best option for me is to do my own tissue. I think that would be best. It feels natural. So yes, I found a group in San Antonio, and they specialize in this type of procedure. I told my doctors here, and they were on board. to have everything together at once, the mastectomy and the
Mm-hmm.
immediate reconstruction. Because
Mm-hmm.
some women have a mastectomy
And
and
they
then they'll
wait.
put expanders, they wait. So it just depends on your diagnosis. But in my case, I was a candidate for the immediate. So, I found this place in San Antonio, and I had my consult, and yes, they're like, yeah, based off of everything, you are a candidate for immediate reconstruction. And they recommended their breast surgeon. So I had the breast surgeon over there. He took over my case and he performed, the mastectomy and he was going to perform that. And then I had the plastic surgeon. They were going to do the reconstruction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, well, we're gonna do this. And during this time, my husband was so supportive.
Mm-hmm.
I just get so emotional because,
Take your time.
he's really been my rock. Like, he was so supportive. And, he was like, he really stepped it up and just was really there for me. And, he took care of everything. Like, I already booked the hotel, I already got this, I got his
Mm-hmm.
food, so he was just so supportive. Just things that I didn't have to worry about, he
Mm-hmm.
was just like, let's go. With this surgery, we had it scheduled like in May or June, but they had a cancellation. And so they had asked me if I can go sooner, and I was like, oh my God. So I was like, okay.
I remember.
So, yeah, so
You
my
told me.
husband was like, don't worry about it, we'll be good. Another thing that helped me too, I joined my old friend. She told me about a support group
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been active on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a Facebook account just to join the support groups with women dealing with the same diagnosis and same surgery that I was going to go through, and that was very helpful.
That you just wanted to be surrounded by positive, like uplifting words and energy.
Yes. I would just read a lot of like positive like outcomes,
Mm-hmm.
positive stories, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let me just focus on that. Even though in the back of my mind, obviously, like with any procedure, it's a risk. With anything, it's a risk, but I'm just trying to stay positive.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was helpful too, being on the support.
Support
So
group.
finding like having, yes, people that are
Mm-hmm.
going through the same thing, just knowing you're not alone.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's great to have support from our partners, our significant others, our family, but they're not going through what you're going through, right? And so when
Hmm.
you connect with other people or hear what they're saying or their stories or what they're feeling and their experiences and what they're going through, then yeah, like you said, you don't feel alone. You can feel validated. You can feel a bit more at ease or get some kind of comfort or relief
Hmm.
off of what they say, just because you have so many questions and that you have in your mind and uncertainties, and you're like, okay, well, at least I can get an idea of we can
Hmm.
relate in some way, right? And yeah, and
Hmm.
they have the same understanding of like what you're going through, like mentally and emotionally, which is very, like you said, validating and can make you feel a bit more not as alone.
Yeah.
Get that support in a
Yes.
different way, right?
Yes, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
And that's
So,
important part of that healing process is the support system and the
hmm
resources that you have. Yeah.
yes, I think definitely having a support system is very, very
Mm-hmm.
beneficial and important just to get through a very difficult diagnosis or time, in your life. But yeah, so I ended up, I had this surgery, it was a very, very long surgery. Like looking back, like I still can't believe I went through all that.
Right? And you think about it, it's like
Uh,
the bodies are amazing. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Like, oh my God, how did I even get through that whole thing? It's like, it's
yes,
crazy,
it's
the whole
so,
process.
yeah, it's so crazy. But I do remember like I was prepping myself the night before, just even like just looking at myself in the mirror, I was just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is the last time
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna see myself like this.
Mm-hmm.
It was sad.
Yeah. It was like a grieving process, right? Like a saying
Yeah,
like a goodbye in a way, but you were rebirthing something else at the same time.
yeah, it was the grieving process. I just like, okay, I'm gonna wake up and it's gonna be different. But, I kept telling myself, it's for my future, it's for my health, for my kids. I just kept telling me I don't want to take the risk if I don't take care of this. that it's gonna become worse. You know, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And listening to music, you know, more worship, more
Mm-hmm.
prayer.
Kind of help prep you for the day, for the following day, right? To get you into a space of surrender and acceptance, and
Yes.
I just hope, just praying that everything's going to be okay and that you're going to be taken care of, and going into it the best possible way that you could, right? With this more
Right.
optimistic mindset. I'm safe. I'm going to get through this. I've gotten this far. I'm going to get through this.
Yeah, that's things that, it just kind of felt like we're almost there. Like
Mm,
I kind of see light at the end of the tunnel.
mm, get
I
past
see
this.
it. It's still a little far away. It's still far, but I
Yeah.
see it. I see a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had the surgery, thankfully. Well, I think it was like 6 hours at first, but thankfully the nurse was able to catch there was like a clotting issue going on, so I had to go
Mm,
back for a second surgery.
oh my
So
gosh.
it was like an 11, 12-hour
Wow.
surgery. But thankfully after that, everything, it went well. I stayed at the hospital for a good 2 to 3 days. But yeah, like how you said right now, our bodies are so amazing. Like I remember the first time like getting out of bed, like I couldn't even walk.
Mm,
Your body just debilitates so fast
wow.
too. But I just remember telling myself, you got this, you're strong, you've
Mm,
come this far, you're okay. And just kept telling myself like what I would tell my patients.
mm-hmm,
I was a bedside nurse for a while. My patients, I mean, they go through hard stuff. Like
mm-hmm. You're a
I
very
remember,
compassionate person,
yes,
and
yes,
that skill that you
yeah,
have. I mean, I'm going to say it's a skill because we may not have that compassion towards ourselves, maybe to others, right? And like you said, as to your patients, but you were able to apply that to yourself, which is like what you
yes.
also needed too during this time.
Yes, yes, definitely. I just remember telling myself, okay, you got this, push through it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
it's just kind of,
powerful. It's powerful in those words. Words are powerful and how they make us feel in our body. We could
hmm
either say things that are going to be negative or unsupportive, unproductive, which is going to make us feel the opposite of how we want to feel. And you helped, you did an amazing job at supporting yourself.
Thank you. No, yeah,
Hmm.
I feel like I did my best, in that moment. After that, I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, we got past
Mm-hmm.
that. Thankfully, during my surgery, they sent everything, the mastectomy
Mm-hmm.
part. They send everything to pathology just to make sure that it's not invasive, to make sure that there was no lymph nodes involved. So I'm so grateful. Like it was negative. It was not invasive. They were
Mm-hmm.
able to get everything. My margins were clear, like
That's great.
everything was removed. So that was very great news. I remember just telling myself, okay, well, that part is good, but like here comes the more like healing,
Healing.
because now I'm dealing with this new, I guess, I don't know, body or, it's,
Mm-hmm. It's another adjustment and another part to healing, right? Is that part has passed, but now it's another hurdle. It's another hurdle to heal physically from the whole procedure,
yeah,
but healing mentally, emotionally to a different body that just looks different now as a result of the whole experience.
yes. So that was a new hurdle to
Yeah, maybe that can
jump
be another
over.
podcast too, right? As the body
Yeah,
image part.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
another healing journey there on that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was difficult. But, something I really learned with this, I told myself, okay, we were able to get the cancer out. But something I've learned is like I need to keep still working at, staying healthy. It was kind of like just very eye-opening, like
Mm-hmm.
just to look at my life and really think about like what could have contributed to this, I mean, it could be multiple things, right? I started looking at things like the holistic way, like as a person,
Yeah, as a
like
whole. Yeah, as
as
an
a
entire
whole,
being. Mm-hmm.
yes, like my mind, my body, my spirit, my
Mm.
emotional, just everything. And I started thinking, what other areas in my life like need improvement?
It's a
Like
powerful
this whole time,
question.
like, I like to exercise. I have my faith, okay. What about emotional? Do I have emotional past wounds that need healing? I'm holding on to a lot of maybe emotions that are causing like changes in my body and,
Mm-hmm.
in myself. I just started looking
Yeah.
more into like, what is cancer? So I started thinking, what are things I can do? Like my goal was to, okay, I already have this out. Now I need to prevent from
Mm-hmm.
it to reoccurring.
Yeah.
So started going to therapy. I feel I had been dealing a lot with
Mm-hmm.
chronic stress. It's not good.
Yeah, absolutely.
A
It
lot
can
of, you know,
manifest in so many different ways. Yeah.
So just doing like small lifestyle changes.
What else do you feel like you've been doing differently in your lifestyle to help you work on your overall health, a holistic approach to your health?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of
Yes, there is.
information. There's a lot, especially like for cancer. So I just remember feeling so overwhelmed with so much information
Oh, yeah.
and where I can't even process everything or think straight because
Mm-hmm.
it's too much. And I had to tell myself, like, you know what? You need to just focus,
Mm-hmm.
keep it simple, go back to the basics. What's important? We need sleep. Is my sleep
Yes.
good? Am I listening to my body? Making sure I'm getting rest.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've always been on the go, like just on the go, like in a fast pace.
Yeah. Yeah. We can all relate to that.
Even before kids, that was my
Yeah.
life, being a nurse, working in the hospital, like go,
So
go, go.
true.
I eat like in 2 minutes, just scarf my food down. So I feel that's been my life for such a long time.
Like your nervous system has always been, just sounds like it's been
Yes,
dysregulated for quite some time, right?
yes, for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've always been on that fight
Fight
or
or
flight
flight.
mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I feel like I've always been like that and for such a long time. So I told myself, like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep it simple. Like, what are things that I can control?
Yes.
Like
What's within your
at the moment.
control?
Yes. Okay, I can control what I listen to. I can control what I watch. I
Yes.
can control, yes, like make, a better bedtime routine, doing more movement, exercising, making better choices, what I'm going to eat, manage. I think a big one was my emotions, my stress. Stress management was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my career can be very, very stressful. So just being able to managing my stress better.
Yeah, better
That
stress
was a big one.
management. It's a huge one, especially as moms.
Yes. So started doing little things like that. My faith. So just
Spirituality.
incorporate my
Yep.
spirituality. Yes. Being more consistent. The exercise. Like what helps me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Diagnosis really. I just started thinking. Even like who
Yeah.
am I?
Yeah, you
Like
start
what do I
asking yourself the
enjoy?
deep questions now, right? Now, when you're faced with
Yeah.
this life threatening diagnosis, you really start to ask yourself some deep, deep questions and get deeper into your spirituality, right? And what
Mhm.
matters to you. It's like, how can I want to enjoy my life. I want to do this. I want to do that. What do I want? But at the same time, it's like, you got to bring it back to yourself. What needs healing? How can I
Exactly.
be the best person of version of myself? My physical body what kind of state is my physical body in? What kind of state is my mental body,
Mhm.
my emotional body, my spiritual body? And you started thinking
Mhm.
about a lot of those things, which kind of like brought it all to the surface, right? In answering those questions for
Mhm.
you. Sometimes we need those really deep experiences, like
Yeah.
yours, for example, in order for us to see that, right? Because
Yes.
a lot of the times we move through the motions, day to day,
Mhm.
life, typical autopilot, and maybe not listening to our body's messages because we're so busy
Mhm.
that big drastic things happen in our life. And I'm
Mhm.
sure you've seen them first off in your life as an RN from your patients. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, I can't be putting myself last anymore. I got to pay attention to what my body needs, what my body's telling me if I
Mhm.
want to continue to experience life like fully. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, a lot of the times it's those drastic, really hard things that life is going
Mhm.
to put in your path or the universe or whomever, and to be like, okay, like now I can
Yes,
see. Mm.
exactly. That's exactly how I see this whole experience. It was really an awakening,
Mm-hmm.
like I thought I was taking care of myself, but it was like,
Mm.
no. it's deeper, it's
Yeah.
viewing, like yourself as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
and telling myself, hey, why, if I want to feel my best, be the best mom, be the best wife, the best version of myself, like I really need to take control of, making just these changes and really taking care of myself, my mental health, my emotional health, my physical health, my spiritual health, because yeah, I mean, things can change
Mm-hmm.
in an instant,
Mm-hmm.
I think with this whole experience, I've really just, so many emotions. I went through all that. Like it changed me, It changed me for the best. I feel like I'm really gonna just staying consistent and committing to myself
Mm-hmm.
that I'm gonna take care of myself better
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that continue to do that, take those steps
Yeah.
to heal, to be able to enjoy life. There's so much to life to enjoy. That's one thing. Like I think we just get so overwhelmed nowadays.
Yeah. You're
Just
absolutely
keeping
right.
things just keeping things
Coming back to this
simple,
simple. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, keep it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
simple. Let's go back, how I'm, my sleep, my
Yeah.
stress, making sure I'm hydrating, making sure,
Mm-hmm.
take some deep breaths, a lot of deep breathing exercises. I kept telling myself, okay, I need to improve my immune system. I
Uh-huh.
need to improve my sleep. I need to improve.
Yeah. So you kind of knew already what were some things just by asking yourself those questions. You kind of started to think about what you needed, right? And which is amazing
Hmm.
because I feel like there's a lot of people out there who don't know. Like you said, we can get overwhelmed with so many things. And where do I start? And well, what change do I make in this and that? We can get so overwhelmed with all the things and then get in this analysis paralysis and not do anything. But you
Yes.
took charge and you talked yourself through it and you supported yourself and you said, let's go back to the basics. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Let's just start with this. What can I control? Right. Which is a very huge
Hmm.
skill. You really got through a lot of healing with yourself as well. What do you think are some practical steps women can take to tune into their own bodies and be like proactive about their health? Like, what would you say to them or recommend to them?
I think like to be tuned to your body. I think it's important like to slow down,
Mm-hmm.
to take a moment and just really like pause and rest and just listen to our body.
Yeah, and how we're feeling, right? Because we're so always
Yes.
busy doing things for the kids and cooking dinner and doing all the things that it can be really hard to slow down, right? And that itself is a challenge, right? So, like, I know for
Yes.
me too, I have to remind myself, okay, I'm feeling XYZ. Let me sit down and take a couple deep breaths, or let me just close my eyes for a moment or say a prayer or anything like that.
Yes.
For
Yes. I
you, it
think
sounds like
just
breathing has been helping you, like
yes,
taking some deep
breaths have
breaths.
been yes, a lot of breaths has been
Yeah.
very, very helpful. But yeah, I think really just being proactive, about your health. I'm very big about preventative care.
Yeah, me too.
So, just going to get your annual exams,
Mm-hmm.
getting an annual exam, getting your pap smears, getting your well woman.
Your what
Yeah,
woman
well, your pap
exams.
smears. Yes.
Yeah.
I know they start doing like mammograms at 40. I know there's a lot of controversial to with mammograms, but I know there's, you can do a self exam at home. Just being aware of how your body is. If
Mm-hmm.
you feel something different, if something looks abnormal to you, just go get that
Talk
checked
to your
out.
doctor. Yeah,
Talk to your doctor.
exactly.
Yes. But I think just being proactive and just really, yeah, taking care of
Yeah.
yourself as
I
much as you
agree.
can.
I agree. Yeah, it's really easy to get into like you said, like your life gets busy and we put all of those appointments on hold, but yet we don't put them on hold for our children. We gotta get your dentist
Yes,
appointment, son. We gotta take you to your yearly checkup. But what about mom? Right? And that's how we prevent
yes.
a lot of these things. And that is so interesting. Yeah, it's crazy.
Hmm.
But yeah, you're right. Preventative care is super important. It's like, well, let's do what we can to tackle some of these issues and get ahead of it, right? And do what we can to be preventative, along with our lifestyle changes. Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think that's what, that's how we were able to catch this so
Yeah.
early. I was trying to be proactive and,
And then you tuned into your
that's,
body and you listened to it that second time. And that was like
hmm.
light bulb, right? It was like a
Yes.
combination. Mm-hmm.
It was,
Yeah.
yes. That was so crazy.
Yeah.
still, I don't know. I think that was just crazy how that happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I'm so sorry
Hmm.
that you went through all that, but at the same time, at the end of it, like you said, it's changed you. You have a more appreciation for life, and you've
Yes.
really taken charge of your own health and being proactive with your own wellness in a holistic way. If you could go back and tell yourself one thing at the start of the journey, what would it be?
At the start
And
of it,
after, if you want,
Doctor, no, no, at the
whatever
start, I mean,
resonates.
it's just that I'm gonna be okay. Like you're gonna be okay, and you're stronger than you think.
Hmm.
Like I've always felt mentally strong, especially with everything, with my career, but going through this and now being, on the other side, I'm like, wow, I'm
Proud of
proud of
yourself.
myself. Yeah, I'm definitely proud of myself. I'm so proud and how I don't let this knock me out. There's this I love doing Peloton. There's this Peloton instructor. She does a lot with mental health, and she always says, "We can be knocked down, but we'll never be like knocked out."
Hmm.
So
I
I
like
love
that.
that. I love that
Yeah.
because I got
So true.
knocked down so many times, throughout this whole journey. Like I was just
You
knocked down,
did.
and then but I just came back. I
Hmm.
just came back. The she
Stronger.
stronger and stronger, and I'm like, no, like I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna let this get the best of me.
Hmm.
So and just came out stronger.
Yeah, and showing so much resilience, so much resilience
Hmm.
that you've gained out of it.
Yeah. Just to continue, and to be healthy and to continue
Take care
doing
of
the work,
yourself. Hmm.
take care of yourself. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, my friend. What an incredible and, so deep conversation, inspiring, sharing your story with us. I know I really appreciate you being here. I know it was a lot on your end
Yeah.
to share it mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. So after this, please, take care of yourself. And I really appreciate you sharing
Yeah.
all of it with us. And it's really going to help other women, other moms who, might be going through some situation, or just to be awake, to awaken to this,
Hmm.
and how it can happen, and just that we got to be more in tune with ourselves. And yeah, I guess that's what your story is, kind of like a reminder, right? It's like a powerful reminder that our bodies are always communicating with us, right? It's
Yes.
just we have to listen, we have to slow
We
down,
have
like you
to
said.
listen. We have
Yeah.
to slow down and just
Mm.
listen and be proactive and really
Exactly.
take care of yourself because,
Yeah. If there's one thing I hope everyone takes away from this episode today, it's, that your health matters, your body's messages matter, and you are worth prioritizing yourself and your well-being. So, whether it's like
hmm
scheduling that appointment that's overdue, or just checking in with ourselves to breathe, or to eat something, or to like move our body when it feels
hmm
anxious, or take a water break. I don't know, like we just have to we want to figure out, we got to put in these small acts of care that really make a
hmm
difference in ourselves and in our well-being. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, my friend, and your
Yes, of
journey.
course.
And I know you're still continuing that journey today.
Yes, it still continues. Yes, it's not gonna, it still
Yeah.
continues. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a better place,
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally, physically, just in general. So
Yeah.
now it's just continuing to heal.
Yeah, and a holistic approach, right? I thank you and thank everybody for listening today. To remember to invest in your health and your well-being, and it's a whole person approach to our health. This is what the podcast is all about. It's about taking a whole
Hmm.
person approach to your health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and how that makes us all whole and balanced, and we're at peace.
Yes.
But yeah, and everyone out there, if this episode resonate with you, please share it with someone else, another mom, another woman in your life who think you might feel could benefit from it, that deserves to feel empowered in their health and healing. And also, please, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can visit my Buy Me a Coffee page to keep these important conversations going. But for now, until next time, everyone, remember your health is your foundation. To listen to your body, honor your well-being, and keep showing up for yourself in the ways that matters most. And I'll
Hmm.
see you all next time, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, my friend, and take care,
Yes,
everyone.
thank you.